Wonderful. Thank you. Good morning and welcome to the Assembly Ways and Means and Senate Finance Joint Subcommittee for General Government. Today we will be considering closing some of our previously heard budgets. Before we get started on that, a couple of housekeeping items just for folks who are on the Zoom. If you could keep your cameras on so that we can maintain a quorum and keep your mics off unless you are speaking, that is helpful for the secretary to maintain minutes. We will be doing public comment after the closings, and that will be limited to 2 minutes per public comment. You are always welcome to submit written comments to the committee secretary or committee manager. You can find us online. Apparently the YouTube channel is wonderful. I've heard from many people that that's the best way to watch us. But however you find us, welcome and thank you. And with that, I would go ahead and ask that staff the committee secretary take roll.
Senator Brooks.
Here.
Senator Dennis.
Here.
Senator Gocochea.
Here.
Assemblywoman Gorlow.
Here.
Assemblyman Haven.
Here.
Assemblywoman Howdigi.
Here.
Assemblyman Levitt. Assemblywoman Miller.
Here.
Chair Peters.
Here, thank you. I did not hear him say here in roll call, so
I'm here.
thank you.
But I pushed the button and it took the whole thing off the screen.
Oh, I had an issue with my camera yesterday. I went to go to speak and my camera just suddenly turned off. I get it, technical struggles sometimes. At this time, we are going to take a quick pause while the committee gets their closing packets, and we will come right back. The closing packets are quite long, so we will give folks probably about 10 minutes to get those together and come back in. So I expect us to come back in about 10 minutes at 8:21. Assemblywoman Miller, you got your packet too, yeah. Okay, perfect.
Chair, the broadcast is unmuted and you are live.
Thank you, broadcast. All right, great. I think everyone has their packets and we can go ahead and get started on the closing. I would go ahead and ask staff to start with our first budget closing.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division. There are 5 budget accounts under the Department of Administration for the subcommittee's consideration this morning to be closed. The first 3 budget accounts were heard by the subcommittee on March 4th, 2021, and the first budget can be found on page 3 of your closing packet. It is the budget for the National Council of Juvenile and Family Court Judges and National Judicial College, which are located on the campus of the University of Nevada, Reno. They are 501c3 nonprofit organizations that are nationally recognized leaders in judicial education and training. There are 2 major closing issues in this budget. The first major issue for the subcommittee's consideration is Decision Unit E225. The governor recommends a general fund appropriation in the amount of $17,500 in each fiscal year of the 2021-23 biennium to restore funding for the National Council of Juvenile and Family Court Judges that was eliminated as a budget reduction measure during the 31st special session, which would bring total funding to $125,000 in each year of the biennium for the council. As shown in the table in the middle of page 4, the restoration and funding would increase funding for the council to the 2019 legislatively approved levels. The council indicates that funding provided by the state allows it to seek additional opportunities as grant funds cannot be used to apply for additional funding or supplement funds from other sources, whereas state support can be used for these purposes. The council indicates that the restoration and funding would allow for it to expand its development and national policy work and write more grant proposals. The council testified during the March 4th hearing that the trajectory of grants awarded has increased over recent years, coinciding with increased funding provided by the state over the last 5 legislative sessions. The council also testified that the increased funding contributes to the economic impact that is brought back into the state of Nevada. In addition, the council testified that should the restoration and funding not be approved, there would be an impact on the council's ability to write grant proposals and broaden the scope of work offered. Does the subcommittee wish to recommend general fund appropriations of $17,500 in each year of the 2021-23 biennium to restore funding for the National Council of Juvenile and Family Court Judges?
Thank you, Ms. Ryan. I want to go ahead and ask the committee if there are any questions related to this budget document. I don't see any, so I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion that we close with general fund appropriations of $17,500 in each year of the 2021-23 biennium to restore funding for the National Council of Juvenile and Family Court Judges.
I have a motion from Senator Brooks and a second from Vice Chair Howdy. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, go ahead and have the secretary take a roll call vote.
Senator Brooks,
Yes.
Senator Dennis,
Yes.
Senator Gokuchia,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Gorlow,
Yes.
Assemblyman Haven,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Howdy,
Yes.
Assemblyman Levitt,
Yep.
Assemblywoman Miller,
Yes.
Chair Peters.
Yes, thank you. And with that, the motion passes. We can move on to the next issue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Madison Ryan, Fiscal Analysis Division. The second major issue for the subcommittee's consideration is Decision Unit E226. The governor recommends a general fund appropriation in the amount of $1,750 in each fiscal year of the 2021-23 biennium to restore funding for the National Judicial College's Dividing the Waters program that was eliminated as a budget reduction measure during the 31st special session, which would bring total funding to $12,500 in each year of the biennium. The Dividing the Waters program is a National Judicial College affiliated program that helps judicial officers adjudicate complex water cases through education, networking, and information resources. The National Judicial College indicates that the recommended funding would be used to provide in-depth information to a small group of judges and adjudicators. Fiscal year 2020 funding was used to support webinars, a monthly newsletter, and the creation of a webpage to house resources for Nevada's adjudicators. The organization indicates that the restoration in funding would be used to offer at least 3 webinars, 1 in-person educational program, and monthly newsletter updates, and continue to grant access to all pre-existing publications and bench cards. The National Judicial College testified that should the funding not be restored, there would be an impact on the programming related to water law that would be available. Does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of general fund appropriations of $1,750 in each year of the 2021-23 biennium to restore funding for the National Judicial College's Dividing the Waters program?
Thank you. Are there any questions on this component? Not seeing any. I would entertain a motion.
Chair, I would move that we approve general fund appropriations of $1,750 in each year of the 2023 biennium to restore funding for the National Judicial College's Dividing the Waters program.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I second, Madam Chair.
Thank you. A motion from Senator Brooks and a second from Vice Chair Howdy. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I would take a roll call vote, please.
Senator Brooks,
Yes.
Senator Dennis,
Yes.
Senator Kokachia,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Gorlow,
Yes.
Assemblyman Hafen,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Howdy,
Yes.
Assemblyman Levitt,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Miller,
Yes.
Chair Peters.
Yes, and with that, the motion passes. Can go ahead and move on to the next budget, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Madison Ryan, Fiscal Analysis Division. The second budget account for the subcommittee's consideration is the Hearings and Appeals Division, which is on page 9 of the closing packet. The Hearings and Appeals Division is primarily funded through allocations from the Workers' Compensation and Safety Fund, as well as nominal revenues derived from state agencies. The Hearings and Appeals Division provides an independent appeals process for disputed workers' compensation claims in a variety of state agency administrative hearings through interagency agreements. There is one major closing issue in this budget, which is Decision Unit E225, and the Governor recommends an allocation from the Workers' Compensation and Safety Fund and fee revenue over the 2021-23 biennium for the expansion and renovation of the agency's non-state leased Las Vegas Hearings and Appeals Office to add 3 new courtrooms, including 1 American with Disabilities Act accessible courtroom. The agency indicates the expansion and renovation would address increasing caseloads in limited courtroom space for the division's 2 types of cases, which includes both workers' compensation cases and non-workers' compensation cases. The agency indicates the expansion in courtrooms would allow for each of the 8 appeals officers to have their own courtroom to hear and schedule cases, as well as 1 additional courtroom for the 4 special appeals officers and senior appeals officer to schedule and hear cases. In addition, the agency indicates the current number of courtrooms results in delayed hearings due to a shortage in courtrooms to schedule cases that are removed from the stacked calendar and moved to a time-certain hearing. The division indicates the expansion would allow the agency to schedule cases in a more efficient manner, which could help reduce the length of time it takes to bring cases to a resolution. During the March 4th, 2021 hearing, the agency testified that caseloads are possibly anticipated to increase as individuals return to work post-COVID-19 shutdown. The governor's recommendation includes a facility usage fee to offset the use of the facility by non-workers' compensation agencies. The facility usage fee is still undetermined, and as such, should the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of the governor's recommendation, it may also wish to recommend a letter of intent be issued to direct the Hearings and Appeals Division to provide the interim finance committee with how the facility usage fee rate was calculated, the finalized facility usage fee rate, and the fiscal impact the new facility usage fee rate will have on agencies with interlocal agreements that utilize the division's facilities once this new facility usage fee rate has been determined. The division further notes that should the renovation and expansion be deferred, the space in the state leased building proposed for the expansion could potentially no longer be available. Does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of the expansion and renovation of the leased Las Vegas Hearings and Appeals Office, funded by an allocation of $266,997 in fiscal year 2022 and $193,175 in fiscal year 2023 from the Workers' Compensation and Safety Fund, and fee revenue of $19,173 in fiscal year 2022 and $13,872 in fiscal year 2023 as recommended by the governor? If so, the subcommittee may wish to consider recommending that the full committee issue a letter of intent to direct the Hearings and Appeals Division to submit a report to the Interim Finance Committee on the calculation of the new facility usage fee, the usage fee hourly rate, and the fiscal impact the facility usage fee rate will have on agencies with interlocal agreements.
Thank you. Are there any questions regarding this item? I don't see any. I would go ahead and entertain a motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to make a motion to recommend the approval of the expansion and renovation of the leased Las Vegas Hearings and Appeals Office, funded by an allocation of $266,997 in FY 2022 and $193,175 in FY 2023 from the Workers' Compensation and Safety Fund, and fee revenue of $19,173 in FY 2022 and $13,872 in FY 2023 as recommended by the governor. I would also move that the full committee issue a letter of intent to direct the Hearings and Appeals Division to submit a report to the Interim Finance Committee on the calculation of the new facility usage fee, the usage fee hourly rate, and the fiscal impact of the new facility usage fee rate will have on the agencies with interlocal agreements once the new facility usage rate fee has been determined.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second, Madam Chair.
Thank you. A motion by Senator Brooks and a second by Vice Chair Howdy. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, could go ahead and take a roll call vote.
Senator Brooks,
Yes.
Senator Dennis,
Yes.
Senator Goguchia, Assemblywoman Gorla,
Yes.
Assemblyman Haven,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Howdy,
Yes.
Assemblyman Levitt,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Miller,
Yes.
Chair Peters.
Yes, and I saw Senator Goguchia throwing a thumbs up. Senator, you have any?
Yes. Thank you. For some reason, my computer froze and I couldn't get out. So, yes.
Thank you. And with that, the motion passes unanimously. I would ask staff to go into the other closing items of this budget.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Madison Ryan, Fiscal Analysis Division. There are two other closing items as shown on page 12 of the closing document. Other closing item 1 is for replacement equipment, and other closing item 2 is a technical adjustment to the base budget to adjust rental expenditures. Fiscal staff recommends other closing item 1 be closed as recommended by the governor, and other closing item 2 be closed with the noted technical adjustment. And fiscal staff requests authority for staff to make other technical adjustments as needed.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to make a motion that other closing item 1 be closed as recommended by the governor, and other closing item 2 be closed with the noted technical adjustment. I would also like to move that we grant authority for staff to make other technical adjustments as necessary.
Thank you. I was and forgot to ask for questions. Are there any questions from the committee on this particular issue before I go ahead and entertain a second? All right. Is there a second on the motion?
I'll second, Chair. This is Vice Chair.
Thank you. A second by from Vice Chair Howdy. Is there any discussion on these other closing items? Seeing none, go ahead and take a roll call vote, please.
Senator Brooks,
Yes.
Senator Dennis,
Yes.
Senator Gocochea,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Gorlo,
Yes.
Assemblyman Haven,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Hadigi,
Yes.
Assemblyman Levitt,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Miller,
Yes.
Chair Peters.
Yes, and with that, motion passes unanimously. Now, I would like to go back to account 1011302. I forgot to ask staff to go over the other closing items in that budget. If staff wouldn't mind going back to that budget, giving us the details of the recommendation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, Fiscal Analysis Division. For the record, there are no other closing items in budget account 1302, but fiscal staff requests authority to make technical adjustments as needed.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the committee before I entertain a motion on that request? With no questions, I would entertain a motion on the request for technical adjustments on 1011302.
Madam Chair, I move that we grant staff authority to make technical adjustments on that budget as needed.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Vice Chair Howdy, thank you. Is there any discussion? Go ahead and take a roll call vote.
Senator Brooks,
Yes.
Senator Dennis,
Yes.
Senator Gocochea,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Gorlo,
Yes.
Assemblyman Haven,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Hadigi,
Yes.
Assemblyman Levitt,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Miller,
Yes.
Chair Peters.
Yes, and with that, the motion passes unanimously. I would like for staff to go ahead and present the closing documents on account 7181358, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Madison Ryan, Fiscal Analysis Division. The third budget account for the subcommittee's consideration is the Purchasing Division, which can be found on page 13 of the closing packet. The Purchasing Division's primary responsibility is to assist state agencies and political subdivisions with the efficient procurement of quality supplies, equipment, and services at a reasonable cost. There are no major closing issues in this budget. There are two other closing items in this account that are identified in the table on the top of page 14, and information regarding Capital Improvement Project 21M49 in the middle of page 14. There is one item of note regarding other closing item 1 in the middle of page 14, that a statutory change would be required to implement the recommendation in Decision Unit E225. Bill Draft Request 21A083269 has been submitted to implement this recommendation. There is one additional item in this budget account in relation to Capital Improvement Project 21M49, which the Governor recommends internal service funds totaling $969,423 for the renovation of the Las Vegas Purchasing Warehouse. However, the recommended budget for the 2021-23 biennium does not include the transfer of funds to Public Works in this budget account. Fiscal staff recommends other closing item 1 be closed as recommended by the Governor, contingent upon the passage of Bill Draft Request 21A083269 or other enacting legislation, and other closing item 2 be closed as recommended by the Governor, and fiscal staff requests authority to make technical adjustments as necessary. Fiscal staff also requests authority to make a technical adjustment to include the associated transfer of funds to Public Works for Capital Improvement Project 21M49, contingent on the approval of this project by the money committees.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the committee? Seeing none, I would go ahead and entertain a motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that other closing item 1 be closed as recommended by the Governor, contingent upon the passage of Bill Draft Request 21A083269 or other enacting legislation, and other closing item 2 be closed as recommended by the Governor. I also, with fiscal staff, to make technical adjustments as necessary, and also in the same motion, have fiscal staff make technical adjustments to include the associated transfer of funds to Public Works for Capital Improvement Project 21M49, contingent upon the approval of the project by the money committees.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second, Madam Chair.
Second by Vice Chair Hauge. Is there any discussion on the motion? With that, I would go ahead and take a roll call vote.
Senator Brooks,
Yes.
Senator Dennis,
Yes.
Senator Gokuchia,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Gorlow,
Yes.
Assemblyman Hafen,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Howdigy,
Yes.
Assemblyman Levitt,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Miller,
Yes.
Chair Peters.
Yes, and with that, the motion is approved unanimously. I would like to go ahead and ask staff to go through the closing documents for account 7181367.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, Fiscal Analysis Division for the record. I will now begin presenting the budgets which the subcommittee has not previously reviewed for the Department of Administration and for which fiscal staff is responsible for developing closing recommendations. I will pause following my presentation of each budget to allow for questions. When I have presented the last budget in this group and questions have been addressed, the chair may wish to ask for a single motion for closing consideration on all of the budgets for which fiscal staff is responsible for developing recommendations. The first budget, which staff is responsible for developing closing recommendations for, is the Federal Surplus Property Program budget account, which can be found on page 15 of the closing packet. The Federal Surplus Property Program is under the Purchasing Division and provides state and municipal government agencies access to federal surplus property. Items such as vehicles, heavy machinery, weapons, emergency response equipment, food, and medical equipment are included. This budget account was discontinued in 2001 and was reestablished via a work program in fiscal year 2019 to better separate funding for this federal program from other state purchasing activity. There are no major closing issues in this budget account and only one other closing item identified on page 16 of the closing packet. Fiscal staff recommends a base budget technical adjustment to include projected interest income of $1,000 in each year of the 2021-23 biennium. Closing recommendations for this budget are included on the summary page in the closing packet. I would be happy to answer any questions members may have regarding this budget account at this time.
Are there any questions regarding this budget? Seeing none, I would request that you go ahead with the next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, Fiscal Analysis Division for the record. The second budget, which staff is responsible for developing closing recommendations for, is the Insurance and Loss Prevention account, also known as the Risk Management Division, which is comprised of the Insurance and Loss Prevention and Workers' Compensation sections. The Risk Management Division provides insurance, claims, safety, loss prevention, and risk management consultation services to state agencies and employees. There are no major closing issues in this budget account and only one other closing item for replacement equipment identified on page 18 of the closing packet. Closing recommendations for this budget are included on the summary page in the closing packet, and I would be happy to answer any questions members may have regarding this budget account at this time prior to reviewing the staff closing recommendation summary.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the committee regarding this staff closing budget? Seeing none, I would request that staff go ahead and with the summary document.
The staff closing recommendations, Madison Ryan Fiscal Analysis Division for the record, the staff closing recommendations for the Department of Administration can be found on page 19 of the closing packet. Fiscal staff recommends that the following budgets be closed as recommended by the governor, with the technical adjustment notes, and requests authority for staff to make other technical adjustments as necessary. Budget account 7181367, Federal Surplus Property Program, including a technical adjustment to the base budget to add projected interest earnings of $1,000 in each year of the 2021-23 biennium, which was omitted from the governor's recommended budget, and budget account 7151352, the Insurance and Loss Prevention budget account.
Thank you. Again, are there any questions regarding this summary document? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that the following budgets be closed as recommended by the governor, with the technical adjustments noted, and with authority for staff to make other technical adjustments as necessary. Budget 718-1367, Administration, Federal Surplus Property Program, including a technical adjustment to the base budget to add projected interest earnings of $1,000 in each year of the 2023 biennium, which was omitted from the governor's recommended budget, and 715-1352, Administration, Insurance and Loss Prevention.
Thank you for the motion, Senator Brooks. Do I have a second?
Second from Vice Chair Howdige.
Thank you, Vice Chair Howdige. Is there any discussion on the motion? Go ahead with a roll call vote.
Senator Brooks,
Yes.
Senator Dennis,
Yes.
Senator Gokuchia,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Gorlow,
Yes.
Assemblyman Hafen,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Howdige,
Yes.
Assemblyman Levitt,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Miller,
Yes.
Chair Peters.
Yes, and with that, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Ryan. Thank you, Ms. Ryan. We would go ahead and move into our next group of budget closings and ask staff to start with the closing document for account 713-1346.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, J. Marie Mangoba from the LCB Fiscal Analysis Division, and I'm here to present the closing documents for 6 budgets under the Department of Administration, Nevada State Library and Archives Division. The first budget on page 21 is the Mail Services budget, which was heard by the subcommittee on March 24, 2021. There are 2 major closing issues for this budget. First major closing issue is the governor's recommendation for reserve reductions of $211,088 over the 2021-23 biennium for 1 new unclassified division administrator position to establish a new mail services division within the Department of Administration. The agency indicates creating a new mail services division would create a functional organizational structure which would provide greater efficiencies and would allow the recommended division to fully focus on its unique functions. The agency further indicates the mail services section is a central service and currently does not receive sufficient oversight under the Nevada State Library Archives and Public Records. According to the agency, the recommendation would enable the new division to have an adequate and industry-specific leadership to manage the daily business, as well as provide for future planning. Does the subcommittee wish to recommend the addition of 1 new unclassified division administrator position contingent upon approval of legislation that would establish a new mail services division within the Department of Administration? If approved, the salary for the unclassified division administrator position will be set in the pay bill.
Thank you. Do I have any questions from the committee regarding this decision unit? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to add 1 new unclassified division administrator position contingent upon approval of legislation that would establish a new mail services division within the Department of Administration. If approved, the salary for the unclassified division administrator position would be set in the pay bill.
Thank you. Do I have a second on the motion?
Second from Vice Chair Howdige.
Thank you, Vice Chair Howdige. Is there any discussion on the motion? I would go ahead and move to a roll call vote.
Senator Brooks,
Yes.
Senator Dennis,
Yes.
Senator Gokuchia,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Gorlow,
Yes.
Assemblyman Hafen,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Howdige,
Yes.
Assemblyman Levitt,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Miller,
Yes.
Chair Peters.
Yes, and with that, the motion passes unanimously. And I would ask that staff move on to the next closing issue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the second major closing issue, the Governor's Finance Office submitted Budget Amendment A215271346 on March 20th, 2021, which recommends reserve reductions of $97,680 over the 2021-23 biennium for one mail service clerk position. The agency indicates the recommendation for one new mail service clerk position would address the increased workload in mail services, and specifically for the first 2 quarters of fiscal year 21, mailings from the Division of Welfare and Supportive Services increased by 31.9%, and the Nevada Department of Employment, Training, and Rehabilitation increased by 245.9% when compared to the first 2 quarters in fiscal year 20. The agency projects to process over 13.5 million pieces of mail in fiscal year 21, which represents a 7.5% increase when compared to the 12.6 million pieces of mail it processed in fiscal year 19. The agency indicates it currently manages the mail services needs by rotating staff schedules, utilizing temporary services, and reassigning staff from other divisions to manage the increased workload. The agency further indicates a mail service clerk position was eliminated in the 2009-11 biennium, and the section has been working with the same level of staff since that time, which limits the ability for staff to take annual leave, participate in trainings, and effectively accommodate urgent fluctuations in demand. The agency indicates the recommendation for one full-time state position would provide efficiencies in the mail services operation by having a trained staff with expertise in running specific mail equipment. And staff would just note that the budget amendment includes an anniversary month for the new position of October, which is incorrect and should show July, since the new mail service clerk position is recommended to start on July 1st. Fiscal staff recommends a technical adjustment to change the new position's anniversary month to show July, which reduces reserves by an additional $402 in fiscal year 23. Does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of Budget Amendment A215271346, which recommends reserve reductions of $97,680 over the 2021-23 biennium to add one mail service clerk and provide fiscal staff with authority to enter the noted technical adjustments and other technical adjustments as necessary?
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Seeing none, I would go ahead and entertain a motion on the budget amendment.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve Budget Amendment A215271346, which recommends reserve reductions of $97,680 over the 2021-23 biennium to add one new mail service clerk with fiscal staff to enter the noted technical adjustment and other technical adjustments as needed.
Thank you for the motion. Do I have a second?
Second from Vice Chair Howdy.
Thank you for the second, Vice Chair. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, take a roll call vote.
Senator Brooks,
Yes.
Senator Dennis,
Yes.
Senator Gokuchia,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Gorlow,
Yes.
Assemblyman Hafen,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Howdy,
Yes.
Assemblyman Levitt,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Miller,
Yes.
Chair Peters.
Yes, and with that, the motion is unanimously. I would go ahead and ask staff to go over the other closing items for this budget.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's only one other closing item for this budget. That's the governor's recommendation to reduce inter-office mail service revenues by $4,563 over the 2021-23 biennium to eliminate a mail stop for the Office of the State Controller contingent upon the governor's recommendation to eliminate the Office of the State Controller's Las Vegas office, but staff would note that the money committees did not approve the governor's recommendation to eliminate the Office of the State Controller's Las Vegas office. In that regard, fiscal staff recommends that other closing item E228 not be approved, consistent with the closing of the Office of the State Controller's budget, and request authority for staff to make other technical adjustments as necessary.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move other closing item E228 not be approved, consistent with the closing of the Office of the State Controller's budget, and request and give staff the authority to make other technical adjustments as necessary.
Thank you for the motion. Do I have a second?
Second from Vice Chair Howdiggy.
Thank you for the second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Go ahead with a roll call vote, please.
Senator Brooks,
Yes.
Senator Dennis, Senator Gokuchia,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Gorlow,
Yes.
Assemblyman Hafen,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Howdiggy,
Yes.
Assemblyman Levitt,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Miller,
Yes.
Chair Peters.
Yes, and for the record, I just want to ensure that you did hear Senator Dennis's response, which I believe was a yes.
That was correct.
Thank you. Okay. And with that, the motion passes unanimously. And I would ask staff to go ahead and move into the closing document of account 101. Oh, let's see. I guess we are actually going into the staff closing.
That's correct. Thank you, Madam Chair. I will now begin presenting the remaining 5 budgets, which the subcommittee has not previously reviewed, for the Department of Administration, Nevada State Library and Archives, and for which fiscal staff is responsible for developing closing recommendations. I will pause following my presentation of each budget to allow for questions. When I have presented the last budget in this group and questions have been addressed, the chair may wish to ask for a single motion for closing considerations on all of the budgets for which fiscal staff is responsible for developing recommendations. So starting on page 25 is the state library budget. There are no major closing issues for this budget. There are 3 other closing items, and staff would note other closing item number 2 relates to a new federal stimulus grant the subcommittee have not heard before. On April 2nd, 2021, the Governor's Finance Office submitted Budget Amendment A215772891, which recommends Federal American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 grant funds of $2.7 million in fiscal year 22. This grant requires no state matching requirements and a fund and must be obligated by September 30th, 2022. The agency indicates it plans to supplement the Library Services and Technology Act Grants to States program, which is currently administered by the agency to help libraries develop their central roles in the community and promote improvements in services to the users of all types of libraries. The agency plans to provide sub-awards to support libraries in responding directly and immediately to the pandemic and activities related to economic and community needs that are aligned with the Library Services and Technology Act grants to states programs goals. Fiscal staff recommends technical adjustments to establish new Federal American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 grant funds of $2.7 million in fiscal year 22 for sub-grants to libraries statewide. Staff would also note that the 3rd other closing item relates to a 3-year supporting and advancing Nevada's dislocated individuals or SANDI sub-grant, which was approved by the IFC in December. And fiscal staff just recommends technical adjustments to increase fund transfers from the Office of Workforce Innovation by 2.4 million in fiscal year 22 and 192,000 in fiscal year 23 to fund the ongoing costs associated with enhancement of the Nevada Career Explorer navigation system, and increase fund transfers of 180,000 over the 2021-23 biennium from the Governor's Office of Economic Development to continue funding the contract project coordinator. I'll be happy to answer any questions the subcommittee may have regarding this budget.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the subcommittee? Seeing none, please go ahead with the next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Moving on to page 29 is the Archives and Public Records budget. This budget administers programs for the creation, maintenance, retention, preservation, and disposition of records of the executive branch agencies. There are no major closing issues for this budget. There are 3 other closing items related to ongoing system maintenance, which were discussed during the December 18, 2020 Interim Finance Committee meeting, and just a computer replacement. And I'll be happy to answer any questions the subcommittee may have.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the committee? Seeing none, go ahead and move on to the next budget.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On page 31 is the Library Cooperative budget. The Nevada Library Cooperative plans, develops, shares, operates, and maintains services for the management of automated library functions for the public and provides advanced library and technological services to 41 service locations statewide. There are no major closing issue for this budget. There's one other closing items related to a minor technical adjustment to correct fee revenues in base and correct the decision unit M300, which were inadvertently funded with reserves. Fiscal staff recommends technical adjustments to reflect total county participation funds of $275,699 in each year of the 2021-23 biennium, and to fund decision unit M300 with county participation funds. Is there any questions regarding this budget?
Thank you. Are there any questions from the committee? Senator Garcia, go ahead.
And I just want to clarify the county participation funds. Now that is what they've been paying over the last 2 years. Well, 274, and then it went to 275. So that's actually based on actual participation numbers.
That is correct, Senator. The $275,699 in each year was based on the actual revenues received in fiscal year 20.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions from the committee? Seeing none, I would ask staff to move on to the next budget. Ms. Mangoba, you are muted.
I apologize. Page 33 is the mail services equipment. This budget funds replacement equipment for the mail services section and is funded with transfer from that budget. There are no major closing issues and no other closing items for this budget. If there are no other questions, I can move on to page 35, which is the IPS equipment software. This budget funds equipment and software replacement for the Imaging and Preservation Services program. There are no major closing issues and no other closing items for this budget.
Thank you. Are there any questions that I may have missed from the committee? Seeing none, I would ask staff to go over the summary document, please.
As previously noted, fiscal staff is responsible for developing recommendations for the following budgets. To assist with the closing, fiscal staff has identified the budgets that are recommended to be closed as recommended by the governor, along with identified technical adjustments that are recommended below. Fiscal staff recommends that the following budgets be closed as recommended by the governor, with the technical adjustments noted, and request authority for staff to make other technical adjustments as necessary. Budget account 1052, the State Archives. Budget account 1053, IPS equipment software. Budget account 1347, the mail services equipment. Budget account 2891, State Library, including the technical adjustments to establish new Federal American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 grant funds of $2.7 million in fiscal year 22 for subgrants to libraries statewide and technical adjustments to base to increase fund transfer from the Office of Workforce Innovation by $2.4 million in fiscal year 22 and $192,000 in fiscal year 23 to fund the ongoing costs associated with the Nevada Career Explorer navigation system and increase fund transfers of $180,000 over the 2021-23 biennium from the Governor's Office of Economic Development to continue funding the contract project coordinator position. The last budget, 2895, Nevada Library Cooperative, including a technical adjustment to reflect total county participation funds of $275,699 in each year of the 2021-23 biennium, and to fund Decision Unit M300 with county participation funds.
Thank you. Are there any questions regarding the staff's recommended summary? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that the following budgets be closed as recommended by the governor with the technical adjustments noted, with staff to make other technical adjustments as necessary. Budgets 101-1052, NSLA State Archives. Budget 101-1053, NSLA IPS Equipment and Software. Budget 101-1347, NSLA Mail Services Equipment. And budget 101-2891, NSLA State Library, including technical adjustments to establish new Federal American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 grant funds of $2.7 million in FY 2022 for subgrants to libraries statewide, and technical adjustments to base to increase fund transfers from the Office of Workforce Innovation by $2.4 million in FY 2022 and $192,000 in FY 2023 to fund the ongoing costs associated with the Nevada Career Explorer navigation system and increase fund transfers of $180,000 over the 21-23 biennium from the Governor's Office of Economic Development to continue funding the contract project coordinator position, and budget 101-2895 NSLA Nevada Library Cooperative, including a technical adjustment total county participation funds of $275,699 in each year of the 21-23 biennium, and to fund Decision Unit M300 with county participation funds.
Thank you for the motion. Do I have a second on the motion?
Second by Vice Chair Howdiggy.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Is there any discussion on the motion? Go with none. I would go ahead with a roll call vote, please.
Senator Brooks,
Thank you. Excuse me. Yes.
Senator Dennis,
Yes.
Senator Gokachia,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Gorlo,
Yes.
Assemblyman Haven,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Howdiggy,
Yes.
Assemblyman Levitt,
You're welcome, and yes.
Assemblywoman Miller,
Yes.
Chair Peters.
Yeah, I am a yes, and I just want to make note that this is a deadline week, and all of us have had very long days, and it's only Tuesday. So with that, the motion passes. Thank you. I would go ahead and ask that staff move on to the next budget accounts, starting with the PAD program, account number 6251338.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Alex Hartz, Fiscal Analysis Division. This budget account, 625-1338, Public Employee Benefits Program, was heard by the committee on February 10th. There are two major closing issues in this budget account. Beginning on page 41, the first major closing issue relates to the 2021-23 biennium plan design. On page 42 is the first decision for the subcommittee with regard to the governor's recommended budget. The governor recommends a reduction in the monthly Medicare retiree health reimbursement arrangement, or HRA, contribution from $13 per year of service up to 15 years as the base, from $13 to $11 per year of service, which equates to a reduction from $195 a month in the current fiscal year to $165 per month in each year of the 21-23 biennium. There's information provided in your closing packet beginning on page 42 with regard to information that the agency provided at the budget hearing, as well as subsequent to the hearing in response to committee questions in terms of the number of retirees who participate in PEB through the Medicare, PEB-sponsored Medicare exchange. Unless the committee requests me to go through some of it, I will not cover the committee's responses or the agency's information at this time. Staff would note that according to Public Employees Benefits Program and its actuary, it would cost approximately $1.65 million per plan year, or $3.3 million over the 21-23 biennium, to add $1 to this benefit based upon the projected count of Medicare exchange enrollees. The cost to restore this benefit from the governor's recommended $11 to $13 in each year would be approximately $6.6 million over the biennium. Does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of the governor's recommendation of $11 per year of service, which equates to $165 at 15 years of service, as the base benefit level for retirees on the Medicare exchange for each year of the 21-23 biennium?
Thank you, Mr. Hart. And are there any questions from the committee on this item? Seeing none, I would take a motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that we recommend approval of the governor's recommendation of $11 per year of service, which would be $165 at 15 years of service, as the base benefit level for retirees on the Medicare exchange for each year of the 21-23 biennium.
Thank you for the motion. Do I have a second on that motion?
Second by Vice Chair Howdiggy.
Thank you for the second. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, I would take a personal privilege for a moment to just say that I wish that the state were in a different financial position. And with that, I would request that we take a roll call vote.
Senator Brooks,
Yes.
Senator Dennis,
Yes.
Senator Gocochea,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Gorlo,
Yes.
Assemblyman Hupin,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Howdiggy,
Yes.
Assemblyman Levitt,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Miller,
Yes.
Chair Peters.
Yes, and with that, the motion passes. And I would ask staff to move on to the next item, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Alex Hart's Fiscal Analysis Division. The next item begins on page 43 and is the elimination of the long-term disability insurance benefit. The subcommittee will recall there is no specific decision unit within this budget account where this benefit is recommended to be eliminated as a budget reduction measure. Instead, it is being reduced through a reduction to the plan design, the overall plan design, as included in the governor's recommended budget. Information is provided on the benefit itself. This is a benefit that's provided on behalf of all state active employees. Is funded as part of the group plan. The current benefit, as shown in attachment A, which is located on page 50 of your of your closing packet, which I would note is the same information that was provided to you during the budget hearing itself. Provides up to $7,500 in monthly replacement income, which is referred to as a 60% benefit. There is information provided with regard to the discussion that the committee heard information from PEB during the budget hearing, as well as there was information provided in subsequent follow-up to the budget hearing. Staff would note that PEB, through its existing insurer, will, effective January 1, 2022, be offering a voluntary product which would be available to all active employees for purchase. That voluntary product is expected to have two benefit levels, one that matches the current existing 60% of income benefit, and one that would provide a reduced benefit at a 50% of income replacement benefit level. There's also information provided as to the expected cost for a voluntary product for a sample individual, such as a 51-year-old active employee with an annual income of, or annual salary of $70,000 for comparison purposes, as compared to what the cost would be under the current benefit plan. Staff would note that according to PEB and its actuaries, it would cost approximately $4.5 million per plan year, or $9.1 million over the 21-23 biennium to restore this benefit based upon the projected count of active state employees enrolled in the Public Employees Benefit Program. Does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of the governor's recommendation to eliminate funding for the long-term disability insurance benefit provided by PEB to active employees for each year of the 21-23 biennium?
Thank you. Are there any questions from the committee regarding this item? Senator Gokachia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Mr. Hartz, I'm just curious, are there any numbers available now on how many people we have actually accessing this long-term disability? You know, when it's costing us $4.5 million a year, we have to assume there are a number of people that are actually drawing on it.
Senator Gokachia, if you look on page 43 of the closing packet, you will see under the section Hearing Discussion and Post-Hearing Update Information, the first bullet. According to the Public Employees Benefits Program, there were 21 state active employees who newly utilized the long-term disability benefit in fiscal year 2020. There were 25 state active employees who newly utilized the benefit in 2019. 29 state active employees who newly utilized it in 18. And according to the information provided, there were 36 active employees who newly utilized it in plan year 2017. Information was provided at the budget hearing that the governor's recommendation, if approved, would not impact those individuals who were currently drawing on the benefit.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. So I missed that. So there's at least 100 people drawing it today, or let's see, we've got 21, 25, 29, and I guess the 36 would be over 130 then.
I'm sorry, Senator Goycochea.
I'm assuming that the 21 that were there in 2020, and then there was 25 in 2019, 29. Are those technically? We've only got 21 people at drawing it for $4.5 million.
It is cumulative until they age out of the benefit at age 65.
Okay, they age out. That's what I was trying to get to. Okay, they do age out at some point then, and we no longer have to hold them. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification, and thank you for the clarification that the folks who are actively drawing from this will not be impacted by this decision. Are there any other questions related to this item? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to recommend approval of the governor's recommendation to eliminate funding for the long-term disability insurance benefit provided by PEB program to active employees for each year of the 21-23 biennium.
There's a second to the motion.
Well, second, Vice Chair Howdy.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Is there any discussion on this motion? Again, I would just like to say that I wish we were in a different financial position right now. Would the staff take a roll call vote, please?
Senator Brooks,
Yes.
Senator Dennis,
Yes.
Senator Gokachia,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Gorlo,
Yes.
Assemblyman Hafen,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Howdy,
Yes.
Assemblyman Levitt,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Miller,
Yes.
Chair Peters.
Yes, and with that, the motion passes, and I would ask that staff move on to the next item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next major issue begins on page 44, and that is plan maintained reserves. Information. The plan maintains several actuarially determined reserves for the incurred but not reported, or often referred to as incurred but not paid claims, and then a actuarially determined reserve for catastrophic claims. The catastrophic claims reserve serves as a rate stabilization to pay extraordinarily large claims that may be received as needed. It also is available to pay if there is a large influx in claims for which there is not sufficient revenue being collected at that time. The governor recommends, as shown in the bottom of page 44, various funding levels for the incurred but not reported reserve and the catastrophic reserve. The governor also recommends reserve levels for the health reimbursement arrangement reserve. And then finally, the fourth reserve, which is budgeted as the excess reserve for the 22-23 biennium. The reserve balances, as shown on the top of page 45, is funded through adjustments within the various reserves themselves. During the hearing discussion and post-hearing update, there was information with regard to the reserve. Staff would bring to the subcommittee's attention that at the PEB Board's March 25th, 2021 hearing, the board discussed the plan year 21 utilization claims experience to date, which staff would note was through December of 2020. The board received information that as December 31st, 2020, claims expenses were projected to be approximately $33 million less than budgeted for the plan year. And the information that was provided is that the principal reason for the underutilization or the less claims than revenues was a result of the continued suppression of medical, pharmaceutical, and dental utilization during the COVID-19 shutdown and the gradual reopening that has been occurring. These two were identified as the primary reasons for why PEB's claims experience has in fiscal year 2021 has not matched what was expected from a budgetary standpoint. Staff would note that the state annual contribution amounts are established in session law in each biennium. For example, Senate Bill 550 of 2019 session. As such, once passed by the legislature and approved by the governor, there is no mechanism available to PEB to fund increases in the utilization or inflation other than reducing benefits or increasing participant premiums. Allowing PEB to carry excess reserve functions as a contingency fund before the catastrophic or the rate stabilization reserve is drawn down. Staff would note that in instances when the catastrophic reserve is drawn down to cover claims due to insufficient revenues, in the following biennium, there must be a contribution or rate increase to backfill to the actuarially established level. As Nevada continues to open or reopen, at this time, there is no reliable method to project when and at what pace PEP participants will seek care for delayed, elective, or emergent healthcare services. Additionally, while funding for medical, pharmaceutical, and dental inflation is budgeted, it is unclear at this time whether inflation of 3.52% for medical trend, 4% for pharmaceutical, and 2.5% respectively provides adequate funding in this post-pandemic period that will represent the 21-23 biennium. Staff provides this information because in the past, the money committees have been reluctant to allow PEB to carry large excess reserves and in fact have taken steps to either allocate the funding or encourage PEB to take steps to not generate excess reserves. However, from staff's perspective, due to the uncertainties at this time with regard to utilization going forward, at least for the next biennium, it is not unreasonable to allow PEP to carry a larger than normal excess reserve. Staff would note that the true extent of any excess reserves will not be known until the state closes its budgets in mid-September. And so the amounts being projected as of December may in fact be considerably lower. Does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of the reserve balance amounts recommended in the executive budget for the 21-23 biennium with the recognition that excess reserves will likely be higher in fiscal year 22 and possibly fiscal year 2023 until utilization and claims return to more traditional experience patterns?
Thank you. Are there any questions from the committee? Seeing none, I would go ahead and entertain a motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to recommend approval of the reserve balance amounts recommended in the executive budget for 21-23 biennium with the recognition that excess reserves will likely be higher in FY 2022, possibly FY 2023, until utilization and claims return to more traditional experience patterns.
Do I have a second on that motion? Thank you, Vice Chair.
Chair Howdiggy, sorry, I couldn't get to my unmute button fast enough.
Thank you. I did see you waving there. Is there any discussion on the motion? And with that, I would ask for a roll call vote.
Senator Brooks,
Yes.
Senator Dennis,
Yes.
Senator Gokuchia,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Corlo,
Yes.
Assemblyman Hafen,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Howdiggy,
Yes.
Assemblyman Levitt,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Miller,
Yes.
Chair Peters.
Yes, and with that, the motion passes. And I would ask the staff to go over the other closing items in this budget.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Other closing items begin on page 46 of your closing packet. There are 6 other closing items, which all appear reasonable to staff. Fiscal staff recommends other closing items 1 through 6 be closed as recommended by the governor and requests authority to make technical adjustments as necessary.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Seeing none, I would go ahead and entertain a motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that other closing items 1 through 6 be closed as recommended by the governor with staff to make technical adjustments as necessary.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second from Vice Chair Howdiggy.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I would go ahead and ask staff to take a roll call vote.
Senator Brooks,
Yes.
Senator Dennis,
Yes.
Senator Gokuchia,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Corlo,
Yes.
Assemblyman Hafen,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Howdiggy,
Yes.
Assemblyman Levitt,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Miller,
Yes.
Chair Peters.
Yes, and thank you. With that, the motion passes unanimously. Is there anything else in this budget that we need to cover, Mr. Hart?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. Normally, staff does not cover information contained in the additional information, no action necessary section. However, staff would like to take the opportunity to point out to the committee that beginning on page 47, there's information contained for the board, for the subcommittee with regard to the PEP board's action on March 25th with regard to participant premiums. Staff would direct the subcommittee's attention to page 51 of your closing packet. Based on information or action taken by the board of the Public Employees Benefits Program on March 25th and information provided by the Public Employees Benefit Program staff, fiscal staff has updated the attachment B that was originally provided in your budget hearing package to reflect the actions of the PEB board on participant premiums for plan year 2022, which, like the fiscal year, begins on July 1. Staff would just take a moment to explain the revised attachment B. In the left-hand column, for each plan type, so there are 3 plan types, as you will recall. There's the high deductible health plan, which is a PPO plan, the new copay plan, which is also a PPO plan. Then there's the HMO EPO plan. On the left-hand side for the high deductible health plan, you will see that in the far left-hand column, there is what the plan year 2021 actual participant premium is. That is what a participant pays currently per month, depending on the tier in which they enroll, such as employee only, employee plus spouse, employee plus child or children, and employee plus family. That's for active employees. The governor's recommended budget included a premium of, which was estimated at $47.13 for a participant only in the high deductible health plan. The board's action on March 25th, if you move to that column, you will see that the board approved a monthly participant premium of $44.63, which instead of being a $3.19 per month increase as included in GovRec over the current plan year, but the board's approved rate is a 69-cent per month increase in the participant premium. And that information, Madam Chair and members of the subcommittee, is provided for each plan type as well as participant type. So state active employees as well as state retirees, and for non-state participants as well. Staff would point out that to accomplish this, the PEP board approved utilizing approximately $4 million in those expected reserves to be able to essentially buy down the cost of the participant premiums without creating additional costs to the state contribution and the state general fund. If there are no other questions, Madam Chair, staff would move on with the other budgets for the Public Employees Benefits Program.
Great. I'm just going to see if there are any questions from the committee here based on that additional information. And I do not see any, so yes, please go ahead and move on.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will now begin presenting the budgets which the subcommittee has not previously reviewed for the Public Employees Benefits Program and for which fiscal staff is responsible for developing closing recommendations. As with other staff, I will pause following my presentation on each budget to allow for questions. And then when I have presented the last budget in this group and questions have been addressed, the chair may wish, as has been done previously, to ask for a single motion for closing consideration on the three budgets for which fiscal staff is responsible for developing the recommendations. The first budget account, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, begins on page 53. This is budget account 625-1390. It's referred to as the Public Employees Benefits Program Active Employees Group Insurance. This budget account serves as the centralized collection account for the state's contribution paid by state agencies for each active employee in their budget. There are no major closing issues in this budget. If there is one other closing item, if the committee turns to page 54, the governor recommends the state contribution for active employee group insurance on a per participant per month basis be $727 in fiscal year 22 and $755 in fiscal year 23. With that, Madam Chair, I'd be happy to answer any questions on this particular budget account.
Thank you. Does the committee have any questions regarding this budget? I don't see any. We'd like to move on to the next one.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next budget account begins on page 55. This is budget account 680-1368, PEB Retired Employee Group Insurance. As with the active employee group insurance, this budget account is dedicated and serves for the purposes of collecting the state's portion of the state's contribution for retired employee group insurance. If the subcommittee will turn to page 56, there's one other closing item. On page 56, the subcommittee will see the governor's recommended state contribution for retiree group insurance. This is actually, there's two pieces to this. The retired employee group insurance is actually collected as an assessment versus a straight dollar amount as done with the active employee group insurance. At the top of page 56, you'll see information that indicates that for the upcoming biennium, the assessment on gross salaries is 2.17% and 2.18% in fiscal years 22 and 23. This is a decrease from the 2.73% assessed on gross salaries in the current fiscal year. The revenue, once it's collected as an assessment, is then turned into a contribution, a base state contribution for retired employees based upon 15 years of service. As recommended in the governor's budget, the base state contribution for a state non-Medicare retiree is $471.50 in fiscal year 2022 and $498 in fiscal year 2023. And Madam Chair, I'd be happy to answer any questions with regard to this budget account.
Are there any questions from the committee? I don't see any. If you'd like to go ahead and move on. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, Senator Gopachia.
Sorry for being slow on the draw here this morning, Madam Chair. I'm just, and actually, I don't know if it's actually under the draft, but I'd forgotten that we actually put in place as of January 1st, 2012, then there is no state contribution for retiree healthcare insurance if you're hired after January 1st of 2012. Is that correct, Alex?
That is correct. Now, retirees can still participate in the program, but there is no state contribution or state subsidy.
No wonder we're having trouble hiring people. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? All right, I would ask staff to move on to the next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The final budget that staff is presenting this morning is budget account 101-1369, which is the non-state retiree rate mitigation. This budget account was established in fiscal year 2018 as a result of the 2017 legislature's passage and the governor's approval of Senate Bill 552. The intent of Senate Bill 552 was to ensure that non-state retirees participating in PEB paid the same monthly premium as a similarly situated or similarly enrolled state retiree. In doing so, this required additional contributions from their former local government employers to mitigate the cost, the immediate cost on local governments. SB 552 established a 4-year declining state contribution methodology by which the state general fund subsidized the cost of the local governments until plan year 2022. As such, the 4 years have been completed of the state subsidizing the local government increased cost, and therefore the governor recommends no additional general fund appropriations for this particular budget account. There are no major closing issues and there are no other closing items. Staff would be happy to answer any questions, Madam Chair.
Are there any questions regarding this budget? Seeing none, I would ask that staff go over the summary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As previously noted, fiscal staff is responsible for developing the recommendations presented to you for the following budgets. To assist with the closing, fiscal staff have identified the budgets that are recommended to be closed as recommended by the governor, along with any identified technical adjustments, which are identified below. Therefore, fiscal staff recommends that the following budgets be closed as recommended by the governor with the technical adjustments noted, and request authority for staff to make other technical adjustments as necessary. Budget account 680-1368, PEB retired employee group insurance. Budget account 101-1369, PEB non-state retiree rate mitigation. And budget account 625-1390, PEB active employee group insurance.
Thank you. Are there any questions regarding the staff summary or budgets included? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that the following budgets be closed as recommended by the governor with the technical adjustments noted, and that staff make other technical adjustments as necessary. Budget 680-1368, the PEB program retired employee group insurance. Budget 101-1369, the PEB program non-state retiree rate mitigation. And budget 625-1390, PEB program active employee group insurance.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second from Vice Chair Howdigy.
Thank you for the second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I would ask staff to take a roll call vote.
Senator Brooks?
Yes.
Senator Dennis?
Yes.
Senator Gocotia?
Yes.
Assemblywoman Gorlo?
Yes.
Assemblyman Haven?
Yes.
Assemblywoman Howdigy?
Yes.
Assemblyman Levitt?
Yes.
Assemblywoman Miller?
Yes.
Chair Peters?
Yes, and with that, the motion passes. Well, thank you, staff. Unless I missed anything, I think our next item on the agenda is public comment. So I will close out the item on our agenda for budget closing and ask broadcast if there's anybody on the line for public comment.
Chair Peters, let me line them up in the queue. In order to make public comment, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 853. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Doug Unger, D-O-U-G-U-N-G-E-R, UNLV Chapter President, Nevada Faculty Alliance, and Southern Nevada Government Affairs Representative. Thank you, Chair Peters, Chair Brooks, and members of the subcommittee for your work this morning. I would like to echo Senator Goycochea's comment toward the end of the PEB budget closing that no wonder it's so difficult to hire in Nevada. Having served on more than 30 search committees at UNLV in my 30 years of service there, I can tell you that the quality of the people applying for jobs and the people who are leaving job searches has been going down, and more people are leaving. Part of the reason they're leaving is the dire health benefits that they anticipate they would have under our state system. I've been attending PEB board meetings for 9 years, and I've watched us try to restore the inadequate benefits that followed the Great Recession. These current PEB plans that were approved are woefully inadequate. I would like every member of the committee, if you possibly can and you have influence, to influence the process of the American Rescue Plan funding allocations to try to restore PEB benefits to at least some level that we can work with as devoted state employees who are trying to hire quality faculty and quality employees for this state. These plans are really substandard and will not sustain a quality workforce in our state. Please do everything you can to influence the American Rescue Plan funding allocation to restore PEB benefits to 2019-20 levels. Thank you.
Thank you. Podcast, next caller, please.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 562. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin. Caller 562, please press *6 to unmute.
Thank you all for listening to my statement. Alonzo Thornton, ALONZOTHORNTON. I am a state of Nevada psychiatric nurse, a member of ASHME Local 4041, and a U.S. military veteran. We oppose the cuts by PEB to our insurance plans. We implore the legislature to restore funding to our health insurance plans and change the plan design cut. Cost of living expenses are not being adjusted the way our benefits have been. I am fortunate enough to remember a time when giving up private sector opportunities for service to our fellow citizens was a prideful thing, that the private sector opportunities we passed on was compensated by the assurance our financial, medical, and retirement needs were taken care of. Now it seems the reverse is the case. Presently, our service is treated like sacrificial lambs to be bled out without a second thought or extreme effort to seek out other solutions to solve state fiscal issues. We are constantly threatened by cuts to our benefits packages, never discussions on returning benefits that have been previously taken away, while we continue daily to meet the ever-growing needs of the citizenship of Nevada. We need to know that we and our families are protected, not taken for granted. Make no mistake, state workers cannot afford to take on the financial burden these changes would cause when we need their protections the most. Retirees more so, because their monthly benefits are already shamefully low compared to ever-increasing cost of living expenses. They constantly must choose whether to pay for medications or eat. This is something that needs to be taken care of immediately. We need to know that we gave up other opportunities to work for the public to make it seem like it has been worth it. Again, thank you for your time.
Thank you for the comments, broadcast. Please, next caller, please.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 111. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good morning, Chair Peters and subcommittee members. My name is Janelle Woodward, JANELLWOODWARD. I'm a state employee and a member of ASME Local 4041. Thank you for allowing us to give public comment. I heard the chair indicate several times that she wished we were in a different financial situation. I would respectfully correct that statement and add that we are in a different financial situation. The purpose of the passage of the American Rescue Plan, first and foremost, is to allow states to address their budget shortfalls. This is great news, but what I'm hearing are questions about how the state should spend these funds. The funds should first and foremost fix the budget shortfall before they start spending it on other things. This has become a dire situation now, trying to argue against these healthcare insurance cuts that will last the next 2 years and likely only be cut further in the future. I cannot afford these cuts in coverage and increases to employee costs. I am frankly devastated by what I have heard from this committee and the PEB board. There appears to be little value to state employees and retirees who are the state's public servants. Yes, we have trouble hiring good people because what would be the benefit of being a public servant who is not valued? As a cancer survivor, I've already had a terrible time trying to cover continued costs of treatments and physician visits. The copays are quite high for the required treatment. If you have never experienced such a healthcare crisis, you have no idea what the stress of not being able to afford treatment results in. Let me ask each of you listening, have you ever faced a serious illness not knowing whether you would make it through it alive, and then make it through that situation only to be unable to afford co-pays and have medical bills turned over to collections? Then imagine having to make those choices of whether to have treatment because you just can't afford it. Think about that. Some live in constant pain because they already cannot afford co-pays. And these proposed cuts only add to that situation.
Thank you.
I'm sorry?
That was the 2 minutes. If you have written comments, please feel free to send those to the committee and we can review those.
They have been sent. Thank you.
Thank you. Broadcast, if we can move to the next caller, please.
For those of you that have just joined the call, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue for public comment. Caller with the last 3 digits, 769, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin. Caller 769, please press star 6 to unmute. Caller, we cannot hear you. Could your phone be on mute? Caller 769, you're muted on our end. Is it possible something is muted on your end?
If we can
I'm going to try that one again.
Oh,
Okay, this is the last caller we have at the moment, Chair.
Okay, well, let's see if they reconnect with us then.
Okay.
Do we have any indication that they may be calling back in?
They're still on the line. They're just having trouble with hearing their audio. Are you there, caller?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I don't know what was going. Anyway, my name is Linda Hoxie, Linda HO, X as in X-ray, S as in Samuel, IE. I retired in 2009 from the state of Nevada after over 22 years of service. I am a member of RPAN. I am eligible to receive the full subsidy of $260 for years of service to the public. I am on several medications which cost quite a lot and there are medical insurance premiums which must be paid every month. I rely on that subsidy from the state each month to help offset insurance premiums and prescription costs. I currently receive the full $260 per month. Reducing that by $40 per month may not seem like a lot to some of you, but is a gut punch for me. Costs have gone up for seniors too during the past year. According to the Consumer Price Index summary, food went up 3.6%, gasoline 1.5%, electricity 2.3%, and medical care services 3.0% since August of 2020. I can assure you my pension checks have not gone up by anywhere near those amounts, nor has my Social Security, which strangely always seems to increase by the exact amount of the increase in my Part B premium. I know, right? What a coinkydink. And then to also cut in half our life insurance just seems to me retired public servants don't hold much value. $7,500 does not go far to pay for final expenses. We were sort of given the boot from regular PEB benefits and shuffled off to this exchange system. My understanding is PEB saved a significant amount of money by doing that. So why are they whittling away at what pitiful few promised benefits which we still do receive? I respectfully request you maintain our current levels of years of service subsidy and life insurance payouts. Thank you.
Thank you for the comments. Broadcast, is there anyone else on the line for public comment?
Let me check. We just had one more caller join. For those of you that just joined the call, if you would like to make public comment, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 832, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Yes, thank you, Chair Peters. My name for the record is Terry Laird, L-A-I-R-D. First name is Terry, T-E-R-R-I. I'm the Executive Director of the Retired Public Employees of Nevada, RPEN, and we were calling in today to hopefully be able to dissuade the committee from making these cuts. You just heard from one of our members, Linda Hoxie. We have 8,000 members, and many of them are retirees, and quite a few of them are in PEB's Medicare Exchange. And as Linda succinctly put it, this is not good news for our members that are on the exchange, as well as losing the life insurance and the long-term disability for actives. And I have to echo comments made by Senator Gokachia with regards to the action in 2011 to discontinue health insurance for new hires as starting in 2012, and the fact that it's making it difficult to get new employees. It's also difficult to retain employees as well with what you're hearing on the public comment line today. So we just echo many of the comments that were made, and I can only say we're disappointed by the action today. Thank you.
Thank you for the comment. Broadcast, is there on the line for public comment?
Chair, the public comment line is working. However, we have no more callers at this time.
Well, thank you. And thank you, committee and staff, for being here today and being a part of this committee. We are in a place of making rough decisions as the state of our financial burden due to the pandemic has forced our hand in some of these cases. I believe we have I don't have a calendar. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much. I'm closing the hearing.